So everybody, we are live. This is Kyle Thumb. This is Solar Growth Hacks podcast number 7. Today we are talking with Melissa Dawson, and we're talking about closing solar deals online. And most people maybe don't know this, but she's like the OG of online solar because she was doing this way before it was cool. And a lot of us, I'd say 90% of us now, probably started this like 3 months ago. But Melissa's been doing this for a while. I'm excited to talk to her today. Melissa, thank you so much for joining us. Can you get started? Obviously, this is live streaming on our Facebook group. It's a podcast where there's dozens and dozens of people that watch it. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background for anyone who maybe hasn't met you or spoke with you before?
Yeah, definitely. So I got into solar in 2016. I came from the liquor business. I was a portfolio manager for a very high-end liquor company. And I just wanted to do something bigger and better for the world. I wanted to leave a legacy that I did something for this world. So I thought, well, why not get into solar? So I got into solar. I quickly learned that where I live at in North Idaho, energy is dirt cheap. It's very expensive to go solar there and doesn't really make sense. And basically everybody told me, you're probably not going to be successful. You are going to have to move. And I was like, no, that's not going to work for me. I want location freedom. I love the mountains. I love to backpack. I love to travel. I'm not giving any of that up, and I'm not moving to the city. So I thought, well, I need to figure out how do you make this work? I decided I'm going to learn how to master online solar sales. Everybody told me you can't sell solar online. It's too expensive. It needs to be in home. And I thought, well, I buy mortgages online. I hate getting in a car with a car salesman. And no offense to all the door knockers out there. I love all of you. But as a woman, I'm not going to open my door for a man to come into my home and sell me some solar. And then I got to thinking, I am probably not the only woman out there that doesn't want a man to come in their home and sell some solar, So I thought, well, I need to figure out how to do all of this online. Well, a big problem is, how do you get leads? So I bought so many leads, and I felt like a gross used telemarketer, used car salesperson, just did not like it at all. So then I thought, all right, fine, I'll go be a door knocker because I know that they're good. So I came up with this really amazing idea. I was going to fly to California, into San Diego. I was going to knock doors. I'd work for like 2 days. I'd go to the beach for 5 days, and I was going to get rich, and it was going to be an amazing lifestyle. Well, after knocking doors for 5 minutes, I realized I do not have the skin for that. I didn't like it, and it went back to that original idea I had. I don't want somebody coming in my home to sell solar, and then I did not want to go in their home to sell them solar. And so I thought, you're going to have to figure out how to create leads online. And then you're going to have to figure out how to sell them. So I researched. I took courses on how to create leads. I started to create tons of leads. Then I failed forward. I constantly was like, how do I perfect this sell? And then I got to where I am now today, which is I can close deals all day long online, and I can teach people how to do it. Because there's a formula to it, and it's really about how do you connect your heart with the person online. Because we're in such a high-tech society, but sometimes we forget to have that high touch. And it's really about, you have those first 30 seconds that you have to establish that, relationship with that person and get them to see you as a human over the phone and online, and get that heart so that you can get the sell.
Yeah.
So that's where we are.
Sure.
We are today.
Yeah, I think that is something for both people that pitch in-home and virtual. I mean, it's the number one thing is obviously you have to form a relationship with these people. Because if you don't form a relationship with them, then you're just another salesman. But the problem, or the challenge is when you're doing it virtually, it's much harder to, and some people maybe neglect that because it's much easier for the person to say, "Oh, I'm going to call you back. I got to run right now and press the button on the Zoom call, and then you're never going to hear from them again." So definitely virtual. It takes, I think, a lot of practice, for you to be able to build that relationship in kind of that virtual setting. So when was it? When did you have like? When was your first virtual sales call? Like, do you remember?
Yes, and it was my first successful one. So it was in 2019. So just last year was like when I really nailed it. Before, I had been building up to it. And then last March in 2019, it just took off. It was like I finally figured out that formula and I figured out how to get into their head and how to have that heart. And it just went for it from there.
Okay, very
Before
cool.
that, it was a
And
lot of phone calls, but it was really mastering like how do you get them onto that Zoom? How do you get them on there? Because you really do, you can have that first phone call, but then at some point, you got to get them on the Zoom so that they can do what we're doing right now. I get to see
yeah,
you, you're seeing me. Now we have a face to face connection.
yeah, for sure. And look, what is your walk me through like the how the follow up process starts. So when a lead comes in, because obviously I'm the online lead guy. When you mentioned that, I have a billion questions, but I try to keep it small. So what is your philosophy when it goes to online leads? Are you focused more on quality? Or are you focused more on quantity? And then what steps do you do to try to get them on the phone and build that relationship as soon as possible?
So with mine, I really create a very elaborate funnel system for them to go through, so that I know that they're truly wanting to go solar or wanting to have that consultation. So then once I get them to get an appointment, and I do use a call center, um, they're my dear friends in life now. I get to actually hang out with them today. And they're that first warm, nurturing moment with that lead. And then it comes either to myself or any of the many people on my team. And from that first phone call is when we're establishing that human connection. What got you interested in looking at solar? What are you paying right now? We talk a lot about what are they paying a kilowatt. Obviously, most homeowners don't know. So then that's our opening segment to, try to help educate them about all of that. And basically, once we get them warmed up and we're finding out all about them, like at the end of my first phone call, I have notes. I know that do they play baseball? What is their dog's name? Like I thought you got to have that heart connection. So, and I take notes so that when I call them back, I can say, hey, I know that you were bummed that your son couldn't play baseball because of COVID-19. How are things in your area now? Is your son able to play baseball? We talk so much on the front end about that friendship, that like understanding them as a human. It's so important. You have to have that human connection. And we have that. And then once we get all of that, then we really start to talk about the solar end. And then from there, we move them on to a Zoom meeting where we present their energy savings report.
Okay, very cool. So you do it kind of sounds like you do almost a phone call as like the discovery phase and to build the rapport and to obviously qualify them.
Yes.
And then once you know if they're a good
Yep. We
prospect at that
never
point,
we never sell on that first call. That
Mhm.
first call is all about rapport, because I don't
Mhm.
want them thinking of me as a salesperson. I want them thinking of me as their consultant. I got to figure out who they are. Are they moving in 5 years? Where is their pain? Where is their joy? Finding out and having that total human connection before we
Mhm.
ever move them into the sales spot.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that's one of the things that you mentioned is that you obviously have your own call center. Similar to my company, we have our own call center. And I think one of the biggest challenges that people encounter when they have someone else booking the appointments and they have someone else getting on the phone is building that rapport initially and then having transferring even a little bit of it to the person. So what we've done and what we've seen success with is they act the person who's obviously booking, like they're getting them on the phone call, they're asking the basic qualifying questions, they're almost like your hype man, like they're pumping you up, like, oh yeah, Melissa's great, she knows everything, she's gonna be the person that's gonna be able to help you. Does your call center do that, or like what is their kind of philosophy as far as giving you a warm handoff so that they're excited to talk to you even though they initially talked to somebody else?
Absolutely. And that's exactly what they do. Is our call center, is going through the basic questions. just to kind of get them qualified. And then that's exactly what they do is they talk me up, they talk my team up, that we are the best energy consultants, and we will essentially find them like a concierge service. We're going to find them the very best deal. And then that way, when we have our actual appointment with them, that's why we're not selling. We're just really getting to know them, their family's energy needs, and what they need to know about solar. And then from there, we schedule one more appointment for their energy savings report. So I never want to sell on the front end, because that's what everybody does. You know, you go into a car lot again, and the first thing they want to do is sell you a car. And for me, you know, if I want to walk onto the Audi dealership, I already know what kind of car I want. I don't need you as a salesperson to come and make me get in a car with you. Nobody wants pushy. They want a human connection.
And I think that is common, in that people that go for the one call close, and especially if they're working with their own appointment setting team or a call center, that they have the sales pitch in the same conversation where they're even starting to build rapport. And I think that is probably the issue that a lot of people encounter. So I love to hear that you have a phone call where obviously you already have a lot of their information, but you're able to build that rapport with them and get it started, and then walk them, like give them an idea of what the next steps are, rather than just getting them on the phone. And then by the end of the phone call, you're giving them a sales presentation that they weren't even 100% aware was coming. And I think that is, I think that's awesome. I think that's the right way to do it. So
I also think those people that push for that one touch close, I'd like to see their cancellation rates. You know, I bet they're pretty big. Like somebody the other day said, what do you do if somebody cancels? And I was like, I've never had anybody cancel. Good question. I don't know. Because I built up that friendship, that relationship, that rapport, and I made sure that they were completely ready to go solar. I did not push them into going solar. Like, solar it's a numbers game. And I tell this to people all the time. The first thing I tell them on the phone, you know, we're going to take a look at the numbers, and it may or may not make sense. It's a numbers game. So I think that's very important, that line, because at that moment, I think the homeowner's thinking, okay, she's not going to just push us into solar. She just told us it may or may not make sense. You know, and I always let them know it may or may not make sense, you know, but the only way to do it and to understand if the numbers are going to make sense is to take that next step. Let's get that utility bill. Let's look and see what we can do, how many solar panels we can put. You know, we're going to make a utility plan on your roof. Let's see if it's going to make sense for your family's energy needs.
Yeah, and what it does is it puts you on their team. I mean, when you are able to align yourself with their goals rather than being the person who's like on the other, they when they see you as a salesperson, they know that what you're doing is for you. And when you can align yourself and say, hopefully I will be able to help you, and if not, I'll be 100% honest, and we'll be able to walk you through why it does or does not make sense. And so I think that is probably huge, I would assume, in getting that wall down very quickly. And obviously that's, like I said, even more important in virtual, because it's just so much more challenging to earn trust when you're not actually able to shake people's hands. So you mentioned that you knocked doors for like 5 minutes. Was it actually 5 minutes?
5 whole minutes. It was rad. Said no one ever.
Can you tell us, like, how did it go? Like, tell me why, can you tell us about the experience?
So I think because I had my own preconceived notions, knowing that, again, as a woman, I don't want somebody coming up to my door. They're going to annoy me. Also, I don't like people coming up to my door, honestly, because my dogs start barking. And then usually I'm selling solar. I'm doing something that I don't want my dogs barking. So first door went up, knocked, and 3 dogs totally started barking. And I'm like, oh God, they're going to hate me. Their dogs are barking. It's just, here we go. And the guy like opened the door. It was this big dude. And then I'm thinking, I don't want to go in his house either. And then I was like, so I'm doing this solar workshop. And he was like, not interested. Slammed the door. And I was like, okay. Boom. Walking to the next house. I got my girlfriend, Carol. She's walking the street across from us, because that's what they said. You go out in teams. So then I go in, knock on the door, dogs are barking again. And in my head, I'm like, oh, here we go. Here we go. All right. And no answer. Go to the next house. I could see people, and then they ran in the room and hid. And that's what I do too. I think I went to another house, same thing, not interested, didn't even let me tell him. I mean, I wasn't even going to sell him solar. I had a great idea. I was going to get him to a solar workshop. Nope, didn't work. And then I just looked at my friend Carol and I'm like, we need to go to the beach. I am done. I'm going to master online solar selling.
As someone from California who moved to Utah about a year and a half ago, I do miss the beach. There's some days where you're just like, I just want to go down to the beach, and not having that is brutal. What's funny that I'm laughing at is because we have two big dogs, and they every time there's someone even near the door, like they go crazy. But we also have a year and a half year old, so I have a baby that's sleeping during the day during nap time, and of course it's like when the mailman comes, it's when the garbage trucks drive by, it's when everything that goes wrong, and my wife runs around like So I completely know how it is, and I know that if we were answering the door and that was happening, like it's not a positive. It's not your fault that I don't blame you necessarily, but it's not a welcoming environment. It can be a challenge, and that's at least the thing about online leads is you can say, you opted it. You started this. Remember, like you're the one that did the first step. I'm just following up with you. And that's kind of why online leads are great. And obviously, they're not as great as some people have conceptions of them when they get started. They think that online leads is like this magical land with candy and unicorns, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to call 10 leads and get 10 deals," and it just doesn't work that way. What do you think is the biggest difference between virtual and in-person sales? Like, and I know you mentioned rapport, but is there anything else that you think really stands out, that maybe even the difference in the type of people that succeed in virtual compared to people that succeed in person?
Well, like I said, you have to build the rapport, but a really big thing since COVID-19, people people are scared to have people in their home, and they're quickly realizing that you can do so many things online. You know, like all of a sudden, you weren't allowed to go to your office. You weren't allowed to go do anything, and you had to quickly learn how to do things online. And I think because of COVID-19, it's taught us so much. Like, if you think about it, I used to have a hard time getting people to be on a Zoom, explaining them. It's this video online conferencing. And then COVID-19 happened, and all of a sudden, like, we go from people on Instagram taking pictures of their girlfriends drinking wine, doing things together, to now everybody's on Instagram showing like, hey, we're on a Zoom, 5 of us, Brady Bunch style, we're all hanging out, and it's like all of a sudden Zoom's kind of like the new cool thing. People realize you can do this. Now all of a sudden people are thinking, why can't I do everything online? Like, because we were forced to, as a world, for a bit, hang out in our homes and do everything online. And it's been game changer, because not only like is everybody ready to do Zooms now, they're realizing they want to work from home. They want to do everything from home. So the world has gotten easier online to build that rapport, because now they're used to building the rapport online, because now they're used to doing everything online. But that was originally the biggest thing, was how do you get that human heart connection online? Now we have that, and it's even easier because that's what people really want right now. Is they don't necessarily want to have to go out anywhere. They're scared. They want to be in their home. And then with solar right now, they even want even more energy and independence. Like they want to know that their bill is locked in at a certain rate. They want that.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why I think when all this started happening back in March or whenever, it feels like years ago now. When it first started happening, I was very grateful that I worked in the solar industry, because I can see why it's less effective than other industries. Because number one, in a lot of circumstances, you're just helping people to lower their bills, and that's a pretty easy sell. It's something that's even an easier sell when times are really really tough. But the second thing is also is there is like when you're staying home, you see the world going crazy and you start thinking worst case scenarios like what I want to be more independent. I don't want to be relying on my bill company. I don't want to be relying on outside. Like I want to people. It's just a much easier sell. And we're very fortunate that we're in an industry that wasn't as affected as some of the industries that I used to work in. Because I know I have clients that are in other industries, and it's been a really really rough 3 months. So we're definitely very blessed to be in the solar space. Um,
We are, I feel beyond thankful because of the platform that I use, Power. Uh,
mhm.
we were just always set up to do everything online. In addition to everything that I do online, everything that they do, we don't have centralized warehouses, nothing. We ship directly to our installers. We do everything. And COVID-19 happened, and my team grew so big. I had some of the top reps from SunPro out of Houston, Dallas. Everybody joined my team because they got furloughed from huge solar companies. And while these solar companies were laying people off and furloughing them, we grew 120%. Like our sales went up 120% amidst COVID. And I feel so blessed because the whole country's getting shut down. But because we had positioned ourselves originally as online solar experts, Power had positioned themselves. Our sales went up 120%. This month, they're up 300%. It's insane.
Oh, that,
It just shows that the world is ready to switch to online.
yeah, it's really like I mean you can't tell like the last 4 months have been the craziest in my lifetime. I mean, obviously I'm relatively young, but I was talking about like it's just such a weird time, and we're so lucky to be in an industry that if anything is unaffected. But based on what I've seen, it's probably even helped our industry. Not and it sucks for all the industries that it doesn't help, but I mean we're just once again very fortunate. You mentioned Zoom calls, like how it sounds like since you started even a year and a half ago, you've seen a lot of progress of people being able to use Zoom as a platform to communicate and to do sales pitches, of course. What have you ever had an issue with someone who either wasn't open to using Zoom or B just couldn't figure it out?
So we have a pretty dialed in process. And basically, we always ask people if they know how to use it, are they familiar? And then from there, when their appointment's about ready to happen, we let them know we're going to call them first. So
Hmm.
I don't make the appointment for them to be on the Zoom. I say, I'm going to call you. So let's just say your appointment's at noon. I'm going to call you at noon. And then I'm going to walk you through how to get on Zoom. So we start with the phone call. And then when they're on there, I just say, go to zoom.us. Here's the passcode. So that, and then again, like I was honest at the beginning, I failed forward to learn all these things. I learned that
Sure.
if you just email somebody a link, the chances of them getting on there are less because now they can have issues. But yeah, so their phone calls at noon and they know that I'm going to walk them through it. And now I'm on the phone and I'm like, hey, Mr. Homeowner, how are you doing? Okay, great. Now go ahead and remember we're going to do that Zoom. So you're going to type in zoom.us. You got that? Zoom.us. Okay, great. Now your passcode is 208-610-4379. Put that in there and boom. Now you see me on the screen. So that's it.
Very cool. So I love that approach because it transitions, and even if they are having issues, you're on the phone walking them through and talking to them when they have those issues. So it's more of a definitely customer service. I think I've seen people that are more likely just like send a Zoom link. They're like, oh yeah, here, join Zoom, and then people either don't understand or they don't like it, or it's just
It
there's
gets
friction there. Our
complicated, but
goal,
if you
yeah,
have your own Zoom account, pay the $14. It's you'll make that in your first sale. Have
I
that and then
hope.
have your personal ID number for your room, your phone number.
Uh-huh.
So now when you're talking to Mr. Homeowner, the number is you're giving them your phone number. That's it. You're walking them through the whole thing.
Hmm. Very cool. So I want to ask you a little bit about the online lead side, because obviously that's my area, and you mentioned it. And I know you've had a lot of experience and you've worked with online lead generation people. Can you tell us like what do you think is the most important thing for people to learn if they were looking to go into ads and start running their own ads? Because it sounds like you kind of went through that process.
So, running your own ads, there's a lot of amazing programs out there that will teach you how to do that. I started with the Solar Cheat Code. I loved it. I would not be today where I'm at today without them. But it's seriously like going back to college. It's huge. It's really hard. I learned a lot and I love it. But then I have a lot of other people too that they try and they waste so much money. So I think they try to do everything on themselves. They watch some YouTube videos, and I also tried to do things myself, and I wasted a ton of money. Again, fail forward, wasted a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I think the best advice for people is either pay for a company to actually teach you how to do it. Don't self-teach yourself how to do leads, or find a very good, reliable person like yourself to actually just create the leads. There's a lot of companies right now that are doing some cool things where they'll run your ads for you for a retainer fee, and then you pay the ad spend. I like that because you can actually see what the ads are. That's super
Mhm.
important to see what kind of ads you're running out there, because you want to know when you call that homeowner, you want to know what ad did they see. You want to know what triggered their brain to grab their phone, click through that funnel, and go through there. So I think that's probably the most important thing, is if people are looking for a lead gen company to do it, know exactly what the ads are. Like,
Mhm.
I see a lot of lead gen companies out there that create cheap leads using a bait and switch. And then when my reps call those leads, the homeowner is expecting that the utility company is paying for their solar panels. They're doing everything. And then all of a sudden, they just have a bad taste in the mouth. Everything seems scammy and they're out of there. So I think it's so important to make sure, that you see what the ads are. And then the other thing is get referrals. Ask who else has used this person's leads. I beta test people's lead gen programs out all the time for my team, because I want to make sure I'm going to test it out before I ever refer somebody. And I think that's an important thing, is find somebody that's worked with that lead gen person so that they know what kind of quality of leads they are and that they know exactly what's happening. You don't want to do what I did originally, which was buy a bunch of leads that I thought were brand new, fresh, hot leads. And those were the leads I talked about at the beginning that made me feel like a used, gross telemarketer car salesperson. So,
Yes.
you don't want to do that. You want to really focus in, get the referrals from that lead source, and ask to see some of their ads. Because it's
Yeah.
it's not like they can just copy your stuff. Like, Kyle, you make amazing leads, but they can't just take your ads and copy them, because they wouldn't understand how to work the Facebook algorithms. They wouldn't understand all of that.
Yeah, and that's I think I mean number one, you just touched on like a bajillion things that I think are super important. But there is not really that much value in ads because Facebook is such a great platform that provides transparency where I can look at any of the big companies, I can see what kind of ads they're running. But like you said, the stuff that happens inside the ad platform, as far as the targeting and the pixels and making sure that you're able to figure out ways to get your audience down, like little tricks that like you have no idea some of the stupid things that I've tried that 90% of them don't work, but then 10% of them do it. I'm like, oh, well, that's interesting that for some reason I get better between 3:30 and 4:09 or 4:15. But it's just a matter of mastering the process. And I do think that there is value in doing it yourself. Like, I have no problem with people, and I highly recommend that if you're going to yourself, once again, look to maybe find someone that can help to teach you and provide you with it. Because all they're going to do is they're going to prevent you from wasting 6+ months of your time and money trying to learn it yourself. Because and one of the things too that we in the solar industry is, I mean, the solar industry is awesome right now. but it's going to become progressively more challenging, and more people are going online, and it's becoming more competitive. And so time is of the essence. And I think anything that can save you time and help you to spend more time closing deals is going to be awesome. That's why I also, uh, while I'm okay, and I highly recommend people do teach themselves. I also recommend talking to marketers and seeing what they offer, because a lot of times they can, um, yeah, you might end up spending a little bit more and pay them more, but they're going to help you to close more deals overall, and that's why you're going to have such a better profit. Um, so what markets do you typically find? I mean, that's one of the things I think that's most important from a virtual aspect, is that you can sell from anywhere. And as of right now, I know, I believe you're in Utah, you live in Idaho. I know, every time I see you, I feel like you're in some new and exciting place on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. And so that's one of the best things about virtual that maybe doesn't get talked about enough, is that you can really sell from anywhere. Can you tell us a little bit about how has that experience maybe changed your life? And then the second question would be, when you're selling virtual, is there any specific markets that you look to hopefully generate leads and close more deals?
Yeah. So when I first got into solar, the key thing to me was location freedom. It's just, I love travel. Last year at this time, I was in Iceland. I'd rented a van with one of my best friends, and she and I sold deals all over Iceland. I have this awesome little device called Skyroam. It allows me to have Wi-Fi anywhere in the world, and I sold 2 deals this morning from beautiful Utah here, looking out at the lake. And even better now, my husband, Tim, is my COO. So he's my chief of operations, and we travel the world together. I always heard a saying that if you love what you do, then you'll never work another day in your life. And I'm beyond blessed that Tim and I can travel together and just sell solar. And I call them finding my little honey holes in the lead gen area. And wherever there's a hot rebate, wherever I want, I can focus and add strictly to that area for that rebate. Or if there's maybe big news media coverage, like when the fires were happening up in Northern California, then it was like I really targeted into that NorCal area with PG&E, and I can just jump in wherever I want to create the lead. So you
I
ask
love that.
what my favorite areas were. I, of course, love California. Everybody loves California because they get they pay above and beyond ridiculous amounts for energy. I also love Texas, Florida, New Mexico, Nevada, Arizona, and then my new favorite's been the Carolinas. So yeah, fun stuff out there right now.
Yeah, I've had, on my end, I've seen some good success in the Carolinas as well. And nothing better than finding a good location and then broadcasting it on a podcast, which is probably smart. But all right, my last question for you is more on the management side, is where you manage a team, you work with people, you help them to improve their ability to sell online. Can you tell me a little bit about what what kind of strategies you use for training your team? And one of the things I also want to make sure you talk about is the importance of role playing and how you go about doing that with people when you're role playing for virtual sales.
So I use the system Power, and Power has some of the most extensive training models. They have a mentorship program. So my team is all within my Power organization. And so I am their personal mentor for their first deal, and then how many other deals after that they want me for. And then in addition to that, we have the most extensive training. We do 3 live trainings a week where they're Zoom, so people can come and have interactive trainings. We also library all those into a resource area, so at any point anybody can look back on that. We constantly are updating new training videos, new PowerPoints for people to use for their solar presentations. In addition to that, I have an elite solar closing club, where with online solar experts, I bring somebody into my team. We mentor one-on-one. I give them appointments to close. So we have several degrees of training programs. I call them like a business in a box. We have all of that for, that stay at home mom that wants to just get into solar, or that solar pro that's ready to stop having corporate America tell them what to do and to like take their life back and run it how they want. So we have a little bit of everything. My team is all comprised of a little bit of everything: solar pros, lead gens. I have tons of lead gen guys on my team that want to have solar pros close for them. So basically, with that power platform, it allows me ways to get any amount of training that a person could want out there to them quickly in a nice way. So, like I said, the mentorship program and that platform's awesome.
Okay, so and then let me ask you, if you were talking to someone who's managing a team of sales reps right now, and you were going to say, "I want you guys to go do role playing," what do you think is the most important thing to role play to have those sales reps to develop?
So we role play the whole start to finish constantly, and it's almost like if you have a workout trainer, like you have to have that muscle memory of how are you talking to that homeowner. And we role play to where they have tough rhino skin. They have the muscle memory to know how to do every single close. Like they're ready for whatever that homeowner throws at them. That's what we do. So they've got to practice that sales pitch over and over and over. And the most important thing, again, to have that heart to be able to sell online is you got to practice, like, how do you get in the homeowner's head? How do you become that like personal connection? How do you like quickly get into like, do they have kids, a dog? What do they do? So I think the more you can practice, it sounds kind of funny, but the more you can practice to be human and have a human connection, the better you can get.
Yeah, and I think I chuckled, and I mean it was because what you said reminded me of. I spoke with Gus, and you know Gus in Dallas, Texas,
Yep.
Gus Vay, and he one of the things he said on our interview was we talked a little bit about online, and he's like, when you go in the house, you pet the dog. Like that's what you do is because you're building that relationship. You're showing them that you're a person. You're trying to build a relationship with them, but you don't have the option of pet the dog online, and I think that's why we this discussion we've placed a lot of emphasis on that because it's probably the most important thing anyone can do is being able to learn how to build rapport in a virtual setting.
Right.
So Melissa, thank you so much. I mean, I greatly appreciate your time today. I think there's a lot of gold nuggets in here, and I'm excited to do a deep dive and go back into it and once again just refresh myself because like I said, you produce a lot of value. If anyone was to stumble upon this video and watch it or listen to it on the podcast, can you give them a little bit of information about what would be the best way for them to contact you?
The best way, you can either look me up on Facebook, connect with me on Facebook Messenger. My business website is onlinesolarexperts.com. That's another great way. But I'm always looking to help people get better with solar because, as I said in the beginning, I wanted to leave an impact that I did something better for the world. And there's no better impact than helping people remove and get off of dirty energy and to help get onto clean energy. So, whatever I can do to help people learn how to help other people go solar and to educate people on what solar is, the better. So, definitely reach out, connect, and I'm here to help everybody.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for your time. It's been a pleasure, and we'll definitely have to do it again sometime.
Great. Thank you so much.